So hello and welcome to another Woodworking Wisdom. Today I'm going to look at a bit of a weird project, a garden trellis project. And we kind of look at this and I will tell you, originally this was planned to do one. It'd make it simple. I've shown someone the idea and then they went, I have one as well. And these are people that I can't not obey. Alright, so it gives you the scenario of this project of what we've got to try and do. Also with this garden project, I want to make it last. Alright, so one of the people involved, my mum, she wants one of these. She wants to pin it on the side of something. She's already got a trellis on there now, but it's lasted about 5 or 6 years. Falling apart, it was nailed together, quite light duty. Now you've got that dilemma of having to unpick all the plants for it. So she said, can you make me something a bit more robust, something that will last better? So that's the aim of this project. So to start, we've started with a bit of paper. Rough sketch, she wants a fan shape. The other one's going somewhere else, but you kind of get the dilemma that I've got to make 2 of them long term. So we're going to do one as a video. So draw it up to scale. Give myself an idea of what I want. I know you probably won't see this on the camera. From scale drawing, something I'm kind of happy with, and went back and kind of went, there you go. Something more life-size. When I started looking at that kind of, okay, how do we do, what do we do? To that it fans out, every single joint cut of a halving joint is a different angle. So it's going to make it difficult to do. As much as there's only 5 rails coming up vertically, going to make it difficult to look at those 5 rails and where they come up through. And then how to cut those joints. Seems quite repetitive, but okay. So then I came up to the dilemma of, can we build it on here? So we use the full scale drawing on a bit of MDF as something as a working plan to actually make it quick and repeatable once I've figured the first one out. So we can obviously do the second. So that's the plan with this as a video. Okay, so we're going to show you how maybe you can adapt things that you have, then work out and how you can build something. It might not be a trellis, but different projects. So we're going to get us going. We've got our drawing. We've got to start to get the battens in. So we've got some timber. We've actually taken a pallet apart. So that sounds unusual for this, but we're recycling something. I just thought it'd be nice to use that. Makes it acceptable for most of us. So I've machined this up. It is 20mm thick, 70mm wide, by whatever length you need. But again, you can have whatever sizes you want if you want to build something like that. So the plan with this, I'm just going to quickly lay them out, but you've got to move them. These are going to be laid in place. 1, 2, 3. Got 1 spare. Right, just being very quick at the moment to give you that fan pattern of how they're coming out. So we'll move that one just out of the way. So we're going to lay those out. These will come together down here nicely. So that's our uprights. So with these we've got to do the cross rails that we fix into them. So my first plan was how to cut those joints to go across for the halving joint. So the best way you can do it is actually use this as a template, fix the pine battens that we've got now onto this to stop them moving. So they hold in place nicely, they don't move about, makes it rigid, then we can do the next stage. So first thing we've got to really do is fix these down. So remove those. I'm just going to put them all together for a second, sweep them right over. Glasses will help. So I've drawn out obviously the pattern we want. I've got a start stop point right down this end, which you might not quite see me, 1 there. So then I'm going to come up 32 inches, 800mm. Why? That just looks about right. So if I come from my point we've got there, I come up to my 32, that'll be good. Just going to do the intersect lines now on here. So just literally going to draw across. This will make sense for all of you in a second. Centre point I can accurately look at, got one on there, it's a centre line. I want to come down again. 3, okay, let's go a little bit less, so 2 foot. And then we'll be in there, okay. So in reality with these, what we're looking at doing is fanning this out. So 24 from that one, reach across, oh it's a long way on this one. Out to there. Again, Just really trying to keep these in the same place. 2, 3, 4, 5. Certain ones we can vary a little bit. So I've come down. I've got a curve drawn on the top of this, so 2 inches there. So again, we can be quite quick just to mark those out. So what we've just really quickly marked out is the position that we can use to hold everything on this. So on the near side, now I'm feeling just underneath, see where the bench is. Let's just have a quick sight up through. I can drag that about. Do the first little holes in here. So I do one rail at a time. I'll probably need to move it on a bit as we go. We're not trying to drill holes in our workbench. I might prop up with some battens in a minute. Let's just check this one because the vise comes out this way. So we have our 5 holes. We've got to drill all the others. We'll come across in a second. Get our first batten. Next thing we're doing, we've got a spare. And pallet wood's fantastic. We want something straighter if we can. That's not too bad. Got a bit of rough sawn on the edge. Still got some nail holes in here. We're carefully taking everything apart. Let's put that one on there. A couple of clamps. Gonna want something just to clamp it down. So I'm lining up on the bottom edge. We've drawn it out. Pin that in place. One there. Got to drag this about a little bit now. We really want to look at as well. And I know there's one of these that's pretty straight. I could possibly even use that as a straight edge. Let's just bring them inside so you guys can see it a bit better. These spring clamps there will work better. I'm a bit high this end. Playing with the twist, push everything level, that's it. And this is just trying to straighten this out a little bit. And again, I've got my pencil line, I can see this side just to come into. There it is. Clamp that down. Now, as much as I've got that clamp on there, I think he will work better in the centre. It's not too deep. Need one more here, getting a bit of movement. So really what we're trying to use is the batten we put flat on the table in the front, we're using to give us a straight edge up through. Then we can clamp this back in place. I'm looking down my line now, just adjust things, bring it back in. That's there. Double checking down through here where things are. This end we can just look at. I want to come over just a little, so just release it. Better spring up a bit. Look, there it is. Okay, so first one laid down, we're going to fix it. Let's just get some screws. We've got to do this for each batten we do. So screws. Now I've got to come in underneath. We'll screw them on. Screws are only going in by about 10mm. Not trying to over pull. And find our hole is down there. Right, that's that one in. Okay. So first rail done. We can unclip. Take the rails and the clamps out of the way, look. Now, as I kind of said, it's going to be quite repetitive as a project. So I've got the first one, got to do the next one. Alright, so I'll get them all done, then we'll get you back in for the next bit. Right, that's the battens fixed, so let's just take the clamps off, break a bit of rum, just wander down the other end, undo those. Straight edge we can take out the way, that was just trying to keep things parallel. So we're fixed on quite nicely now, so this holds things in place. This end we've got our fan shape that you can see on here. I want to make this a little bit more rigid. So I've given myself a measurement. Let's have a look at what we've got on here. Oh, 150 mil, 145, somewhere around there. So I'm drawing a line on here, just as a guide. If I take my piece of pie in there, how do I know it's 145? Really I'm relying on the width of my piece of pine fitting into the gap in between them. Okay, so yeah, if I bring it in there, that's where it comes down to. A little bit of tension, not a lot. So if I take it as a length, we can go across it, alright, and play with the square so it doesn't fall apart. Try and get this stable enough so we can draw a line on down through here. Okay, so we've now got a diagonal line that comes from the length, corner to corner. Alright, so once we get that bit, we're going to cut those in half. We're going to rip down that nice and carefully with a bandsaw, get it nice and straight, which hopefully means, and you need 4 of them, like this. Okay, not the place to drop it into. Okay, one in a minute. So, got those. These are going to fit in. Alright, now I did find, had a little bit of a rough bit on this Japanese carver's file. If I've got anything just a little bit rough or outer flat, I can refine it in just to smooth it up. That was easier than trying to do something like a hand plane. Just better to do just to knock off the high bits. Okay, haven't got to be spot on, but we obviously want this flat and straight. So when it comes into here, it lines up flat and straight. Now I'm just going to line them up and see what they do, where the top angle goes, because they're cut from either side. What does that play with? That's not bad. That one looks a bit more angle. Put them in. 3. Got that edge, or do we want it? I'm going to go that way. We can always clean it up. Last one down in here. And we'll clamp those together in a minute with some glue. So, just had a quick look on where they are. Bring them round. Now I'm also looking at things like the top edge, how they're cut, which way that needs to line, just make it a nice curve. Getting fussy now. That one needs to go over, so it comes back round. That one's got to go over. Okay, good. So we've got our 4. We want a little bit of glue. Hopefully a little bit of glue down on there. Both sides. Just stretch. We can have our glue brush. Let's smear that about a little bit. So exterior glue as well. These aren't as deep as the main rails, so that'll allow the plants to grow from underneath a little bit. We've got one. Just gently going to squeeze it in. I'm not going to push it all the way down yet. I'm going to doing this at this stage just to add a bit more strength. Then we want our clamp things, so let's just bring that back in. We can play around a little bit to there. Alright, so we've got temporary held it. Let's just get that open. A couple of blocks off one of the spare bits of the wedge. Going to use it to square things up a little bit, so that way and that way will be better. Open our clamp out. Put it on. Oh, which height it will go. Better. Fine adjustment. We know the glue's already starting to go, look. Just trying to level them up. This is the more problematic one, the one down there that wants to move about. Bring that one in. Okay. Now they're wedged in a bit, let's see if we can get the clamp back on. That's better. Pull those up. Let's push the glue in. We can clean that up as a joint a bit better later, but that's in, clamped up, pulled together nicely now. So whilst this is gluing, we start to think about where the other buttons are going to go. So these are slightly smaller. These are going to be sunk in across as like a halving joint in both. So we're going to do a cutout across the rails we've just fixed, and then I've got to do another cutout going down later the other way. So a little bit tricky. I kind of thought about this when I started. This was the dilemma bit of, am I going to do that? Each of these vary due to the fan shape a little bit. This and the far one should be the same, those should be the same, the middle, okay. Circular saw table going to be fiddly. Could we bring the saw to this, make it quicker? We could do it by hand. Okay, that's an option. So we've got to put our rails in. I started thinking, one of my favourite tools, and I use it for all sorts. It hasn't half been abused. FESTOOL guide rail saw. I use loads. Put my saw on, cut things, and the things I've cut you would be shocked at. But one of my favourite tools, it would be my desert island tool to go away with, okay? So with this, we need to be able to position it, first of all to make it repeatable, but we can also make it accurate. So I started thinking, we've got obviously the guide rail set up. I'm just going to have a wander around and go grab a few things. We've got PARF dogs that we could use, so we're building this on the MDF. If I can have a position where I drill a hole, I can put my guide rail against it, work down through. So kind of the idea now is we make this into our drilling table to make this project repeatable, so we can do more than one. All right, so we're going to use PARF drilling system in quite a basic form. We're going to drill down through, going to set positions where I want to go, come down through the line, drill the holes, and then drill them out to take the PARF dogs. So this is actually bit different than using your PARF table you might already have. This is making a table to do a project where you can't move the project about. It's got to be fixed in position, held where it is. That could be something as a different dilemma for some of us. Normally with the PARF system we can actually move the work underneath it to a different position, but with this being that fan shape or something different, might be nice to move that about, as in the rail, move it down. Okay, so we're just going to set up on here. I've got a mark on the end, a measurement. Let's get our pencil. Going to run down and get the square, and then we start to set this up. Need to grab a few other bits of this. So I've got a mark on the end. I can put this in. I know my board, this end is nice and square, parallel. I've got parallel width, the board hasn't been cut. I've got a mark on there. I want to have a measurement. And it's important with my square I leave it to this one done. So if I use adjustable square, I can come down to my mark. Okay, that would be good. Now, do I bring my line? Let's just have a quick look on where I put my pencil mark as a guide. Got one there, one there. Now we go that way. I think I'm right on the end of it. So end of the ruler. Okay, I just need to grab some clamps. It's one of these projects where I think you can never have enough clamps. So at the moment I'm set on the end of the ruler. I've got a lamp stop on there. Just bringing that out, try not to cross the camera for a second, so tighten that one up. We're going to go 0, 2, 4, so we're going every other hole on this. We can reclamp it down here. Again, using that side rail, make sure we're just clamped up squarely. Let's put that clamp head the other way, actually it'll be better to clear the drill. Checking things look parallel down through, that's good. Alright, so let's move a few things so they get out of the way. We've got to do both sides. We've got our drill bit, this has a collar. This fits in to So the bottom of this bung on here, and I have a technical term I bet you, locates into the holes that are on the ruler. Preset. There is a oiling bush on the top, so the drill go down through, drill a guide hole is our start point. Okay, so go 0. I'm trying to stay out the way of the camera a little bit so you guys can see. Into there, line it up. That's good. Into our bung nicely. Look, no drilling to start with. Get it in. Get it down. 3. So I said I want 0, 2. Same again. 4. Number 6 is there. Again, locate it first. Clear the dust out from that, look, okay. Put it in. So 8. Just going to run down. It's there. Then we can just reach. Good. This stage we're going to continue, so let's go to our little box. So we've got our location holes that we've just drilled. We've got 0, so we're going to use a pin to go into this. Alright, that's going to drop in. I'll make sure it loads properly so there is a recess on the bottom that will take up that slack. We can go to 2, that's our other one for a minute. Look. Alright, that's just enabling us to go further on again now. So, back to our 4. Okay, so we've got our pins holes done, got a line down through, equally spaced out, so they look okay. We've got to do exactly the same the other side, so we'll get on and do that, and then we'll get you back, alright. Alright, so we've drilled our holes for the pins. They go in here off the ruler, you've seen where I've got them. I put a pencil circle line round them, okay? Just to highlight them a little bit. Makes it easier to see, makes it me, if you like, I want to know where they are. Quick and easy, so simple. I've been have a look at the drilling jig, which is this bit we're going to need a minute to drill the holes out. I can't have every other hole. Now, I can have a big hole in a minute every other, but I need to have the small holes to give me the locations to move the jig along, just because of the size of what we do, okay? So we're going to go back and drill the other holes in between. A little bit annoying, but that's life, isn't it? Play around with things, you suddenly realise, let's adapt it. So we're going to go back up. I'm going to go into there. What did I have? That one there. So I'm bringing that down. Find the hole will be good. There it is. Going to put my glasses on. So that one there, okay. Put it down, so I'm now in 1 and 3. Now I can still use the same pin locations. I've just got to make sure these drop all the way in and locate. On the bottom of the pin there is a round flange that fits into the nice hole in the ruler. Got to make sure it locates. There's no play. That's nice and beautifully fixed, okay. So we've got to go back down to here, grab our drilling jig, and we'll drill those other holes out. So I'm going to even go right down to 0 this time this end, just to give me something of a one there. Locate it properly in. Oop, there it is. Doesn't take long. So what we've now got is hole with a circle around which we've drawn, just plain holes. Circle hole, plain hole, all the way back down through, so I can easily see now which ones we want. I think then we'll set up the drilling jig. We still got to repeat that the other side, but let's do one side, show you where we are. Got to load the drill bit in. Let's just do a quick check up of where we're going to be. We've got to have our pin going in, our position. There's a hole without our circle, so we can come up or back one. We're going to come back one. Got a hole in here. We know that's going to be there, pin there, so we've got to be this hole there. Other things we can do at this stage, there is collar stop, which is designed to fit on the drill. So we put the drill in from underneath, put our collar stop in. I just gently swing this off the board if I've got to lift it so the tip of the drill will clear. Just going to bring that down. Ideally want to come all the way through. Right, that's given us a set movement now, that's good. So just lift that up. So we've got tungsten tip drill, longer lasting, centre point will line up with our hole. We've got a bush that's acting as a drilling guide, nice and straight. So all those things add up on this. So we're going to locate back in that hole there. We can come up to the one in here. Again, got to make sure everything sits nice and level on there, that's good. So we've got to drill this hole. I'm going to take a little bit more time because actually I want to get a nice clean hole underneath. So all I've got is a scrap bit of MDF that I can put on, making sure we're covering our hole. We could even clamp it in the middle if we like, just for a second. Right, the locations are giving me the locations of everything being square, parallel. This is stopping the breakout when we go through. Takes a little bit more time, but it'll look a bit neater. Go get the drill. Down. With being MDF, I've got to draw it up out of it. Let's have a look. I know I've got that green MDF underneath, nice hard stuff. Okay, nearly. Just do a little bit more. Gonna be one of them days, so. Let's lift it up. Got our hole. That's good. We're going to move along. So our first hole, we need our bung. And here. Alright, round collar. Got to check our position now. We don't want there. We want to move down one. Now I could even move it round if I need to. Check our hole. So this is why I've got to figure out and play around a little bit. Got to move our drill. Now I've got my start one. So we'll take our collar off. I want to line up from here, centre point of that hole. So I'm swinging things about a little bit with a jig. Get our location. That'll fit in on. So we've got something to act as a double stop. We've got to reload our drill. Back in. Set it back up. Just going to take that one out. Using the pin and that guide, that's good. Checking we're on a circle hole that we drew out. So we're just going to literally keep going down for the line. We get our holes done equally spaced. So next one we'll set up exactly the same we just done. Check our position. Our bung we can put in. The drill block and the guide. I've got to get my drill bit back in here first. Alright, so we'll reload. Drill back in, get that centre pin we can use just as a location. I'm going to check I'm pushing it in better. Our collar stop on. Tricky for me to measure it this way because of how I've got the jig set. Then I'll put my bit of MDF in underneath again. It will help reduce the breakout. Come the other side, let's get more support there. So just back on fighting the bigger drill. Let's go small one. Clip on, that's easier. Fast speed, down. up again, clear the shavings, and then just a bit fluffy for this. We might be getting the extractor in a minute. That's good. Quicker and easier on this one, if I can get the collar off there. Third one done. Move along again. So we'll keep going down through the holes we've got with our circles, do each one, plan that out. Let's unclip the drill. So we've done our holes equally either side. So let's just take the board off to stop the breakout. Take the jig up. Right, I've had to take the extractor off of that one, which just clips on. I could have put it the other side, but just easy to take it off of that one just to get in the back edge. One really problematic little thing you've got. We've done the cover board underneath to try and stop the breakout. Get these little circular discs. The bottom of the cutter. Okay, I don't know if I can bring it in, I don't know if I can see it on the overhead. Alright, let's get up. Alright, tiny little round disc, almost like a penny. That's the bottom edge that it cuts through. Well, if it catches on the cutter when you're drilling the next hole, it won't drill. So really annoying, alright, those little things. So you've got to keep an eye on that. So we've got our holes, we've got our spacing down either side now, every other hole as we said. So we need something then to go in those. PARF dugs, just come down the front a bit. Got different sizes, got a long one, got the extra long, the super dog. I think with the height we've got, we're going to need the slightly longer length. Okay, so these will push into our hole. Twist the top, it'll tighten up. One there. Same on the back edge. Push it down. Nice and firm. That means we can bring our guide rail up against those. I'll get the clips on in a minute that will make sure it'll stay on here and hold in place. We can do our cut. And then we've got to work out a way of moving it forward a little bit. Now this is where the problem bits start to go, and so we're looking at how we can solve those issues quickly and easily. So let's get the clips and put them on there. So these literally slide into there. Clip round. Do the same this end. Bring them over. Back in. That'll stop it moving about. That's good. So we'll be able to get our saw on, go across, do our depth of cut. So I need to go find the saw next. So the beautiful thing of this, the guide rail will sit on there nicely. We can move it back and forwards. We need to set depth of cut. So at the moment, no power. Let's just see where we are. This should be down to 0 there. We've got our scale on there. This is newer than my one, so we have a scale that tells me where. Let's see if I can flip it round. We have 2 stop points. Got higher one, lower one. Higher one is when you're on the guide rail, lower one freehand cutting. So this is giving you that thickness. Right, so we need to look at setting that up. Now I don't want to go all the way through this as a depth. So these are 35. So I want to be no more than halfway of that. 15, we'll go 15 deep in here, 20 on the other. That would leave us, let's go the other way. 20 mil deep on these, and that would leave us more material on the back of the others. Alright, so we've then got to do the halving joint in these as well. done our first cut. Let's just move the saw out of the way, which isolate it as well, just be better. Our first cut running across. We now want to move everything up a little bit, but not easy on this scenario with the dogs. Normally on this setup, as we said when we started, we'd try and move the work along. But we fixed it to the board to keep that fan shape. So I was thinking about this earlier, and the solution I have. Okay, there's nothing to stop you making little add-ons for this. I've got a little bit careful how I put them on. We know the PARF dog system has a 20mm hole. I've worked out the offset that I need from the hole to the side edge. So I can put that in. Let's just check they're square. That's good there. That one's on there. So this is giving me my overall length. Okay. So we've moved up. In reality, this is 17mm. Alright. We have a 3mm or 2 point something width blade. This might be a little bit tight. The only way we're going to find out, do a practice run, see what happens. So on there, using my fingertips, and I've just got to steady things. Let's see where we come to there a little bit. And that's good to play around with, just to get an idea of what's going to happen when we move back, how far. Alright, you can see the scenario. Any solutions? Well, it's a really easy one. Only downside is it's one long piece of wood at the moment. But we can have a rail that just sits in underneath. Something just to add a bit of stability. So that was that spare. It's the width of the rail we want to sink in. So at this stage, how does it look? I want it to be nice. I want it to be reasonably tight. Okay. So we've gone 17. I'm going to turn my bits of wood around now. I'm going to go to 11. So there's 4 sides on this. I've got to set them up square. And again, I've worked this out for the job in hand, if you like. Last side, and then we can have a good check. Let's move things up just a little bit. Now at this stage we've got 4 little cut oaks. So hopefully we can just break those off. Now the reason for doing the 4, just to add a bit more material that we can take out with the guide rail working off those 4 sides. That makes it nice and repeatable, so we can get that. Hopefully. Now as I said, that's really been done just for this job. I've worked out, I've got a 20mm slot, so by having those 4 sides I can adjust it and make it nice and repeatable, just swing them about. Alright, quick and easy little solution. Then from there we can get the chisel. These will snap off nice and easily, there's not a lot of material there. Apart from that one with the knot in, look. We've got a nice accurate depth line as well. I worked out this might be a little bit easier than trying to chisel these all out to an accurate depth. And now all I'm doing is just cleaning up the bottom of each of those lines. Got a little bit there. Not really putting any paste behind the chisel. moment of truth. Now I reckon I might be, and I thought I might be just a little bit too tight. Now if you're too tight, weird and wonderful things I could do with my have a bit of play. And I mean, all we've got, I don't know if we can get in on that on the camera, I don't know if we can. Little block, so I've got 4 sides, 17, 14, 11. Right, the 17 is the important, that's the offset between where we want to be to the other side of the slot, make up our 20. 14, 11 and 6, just to create a groove that I can cut those through. So now I can put that in. That fits beautifully. I couldn't ask for a better fit. I thought it was going to be too tight. If it was too tight, I was going to put a little bit of masking tape on the MDF, fine, adjust it. So on the bit of ply, so 17 would bring up to 17 and a layer of masking tape or 2. Something just to stick on. But actually, look at that, isn't that lovely? Okay, first one done. Guess what now? I'm going to work down through the line, repeat it, do the stages each one. So I'll get them done. You've seen how we've done the first one, just going to repeat it exactly the same all the way down through. So last little bits on these cuts. Just a little bit chiseling. Can't quite get to better on these ones, actually get the chisel in properly. So cut them all. The nice thing with this is obviously we can layer things straight now. And like I said, when I first started this, and I used to work for a garden architectural company years and years ago, and they had a specialised machine for doing this. So this is quite nice to be able to do. Put them out, cut them as a thing, and know hopefully that everything will come together nicely. I mean, these fit hopefully tight, but I want them to be tight. They fit in. So next stage we've got to do the rails to go in. We're going to position those. We'll start for narrow ones, or maybe start this end with the long ones. Get the long ones in first. The short bits will come down to here. We'll have a little bit of overhang, but then we've even got to recess those so they fit in. Right, so similar sort of setup, but we've got to get them fitted first. So you can see that PARF system working beautifully now with that guide rail to come across. That simple little block, 4 offsets, allowed me to do 4 cuts, which made it easier to cut it out. So next little stage, let's start to plan out. Okay, so at this stage, I put the button in. Nothing exciting really to show you with that. We cut the grooves, things fitted quite nicely. I've been selective on cutting things out, got a nail hole, we're a bit missing, dead knots, bit thinner. Alright, so I've tried to cut them and fit them in. I started with the longest ones because they're the more important ones. Work down, the short bits will fill the other bits. So let's dump those out of the way. Okay, got them in place. We've still got to do the other rebate cut from this side, so then these can be flipped over and hopefully line up. So hopefully, isn't it? So kind of how? So first thing, we've got to go longer. Now, let's just get the major thing in that we've used so far. Guide rail. We've made it longer, so you can bolt these together. So there's a joining part, so I've got a 12 and an 800 now. That's long enough to do that, which is beautiful. I love the fact you can bolt them, use a short bit or a long bit, whatever you want. This was a real sort of... So next stage, how are we going to line that up? Oh my God. So let's have a look. Out of some of the little offcuts we've made, I've got a couple of these little blocks. What are these? These are the offcuts of this, just screwed together at a right angle. Okay, real simple. I can have one in here. I've even got the wedge that we'd used to glue up with earlier, just as a temporary, that becomes a stop point. Just right and down the other end. This end, got the same block. Oh, can't quite it with that thumb. Spring clamp on there. Okay, so that gives me something now that we can come up against, down through there, our first stage. Okay, and that's not bad. That gives me a position that lines up. I've still got to be able to move it over. Next thing, and this is all sort of problem solving little things. How are we going to clamp this on? This is easy here at the moment, but as we come over the table it might become more difficult. So how's that going to work? Okay, let's just do the guide rail. Let's put that one there. Things you never think about maybe. On the underside of your guide rail, there's a T-slot. Get it in there right. That was almost funny, right? Never thought about using them for this. Traditionally I try and use, we even do a clamp, spring loaded, hand operated, which will be great, but it's too long to clear the bench. So that would normally would be my go-to. It will do the outside ones, but the minute I come in, more problematic. So I'll bring that back. Let's just turn our guide rail back over. We can go up against those two blocks we put in. That gives us a position. We can bring this in. Where do we want to be? I'm going to go on that end one for a minute and come up against there. This end I can come in, same slot, come up as far as I need to. This one I can get up to here, and again I can do it up. Just takes a bit of spinning around. Just clamping that down, just checking how things are. Now we've got to go in against our stop block. So let's move that over. That's good. Right. Just check there, push down a bit. Okay, so that's got our guide rail sat on here, clamped down. We could have a third one in the middle if you wanted. We've got our position, just checking my blocks up here that we're not pushing anything. This one looks like we're pushing in a bit. So let's just bring that back, check where that is. Alright, got a little bit twist on that bit of wood. That's first bit. Next thing, let's just have a look and see what we have. Want something straight? That'll be the first one then. We'll go with that. How about we put this down here? A couple of normal G clamps. This shouldn't interfere with the saw. To there, just seeing a bit of light on those. Want to make sure the rails are pushed down. They're pretty good. We need another small clamp. We'll go with similar type. Up against there. Ooh. Getting there. It'd be okay, I think. Be nicer, it'd be a bit shorter, but you can't always have that. Could go spring clamp, but it'd be nice. But that's going to stick up a little bit. But I think we can work with that. Okay. These blocks give me a parallel line with what we're working on, so our saw cut, that's fine. This bit gives us a reset point in a second. Saw's got to come on. We only need to come down. Now let's just unplug from the mains a minute. I can lower the saw blade down and play with the depth stop. Now I'm working in between the two rails, bringing it down onto the bottom rail. Okay, the long one that we did first of all. Alright, so that's a quick way of just adjusting that. I've then even got a fine adjuster, so I can rotate that. A little bit more. How do I know I want to go a little bit more? Just playing around with what happens there. Saw blade still goes round as I make contact, so if I move it along, that's better. Okay. Right, okay, with the first cut, it's difficult for you to see, we are parallel with our rail here. It runs down through. We now need to move it over to the other side. Spacer blocks. Why not? Simple as that. Why make it more complicated? So I can undo clamp rail. These I've cut. I'm just going to have a look. I'll go with a smaller one. We can always make it bigger. Undo. Got a squeeze in there. Let's move the saw just so we don't drop it anywhere. So we're undoing the guide rail at the moment. We're going to move it in a little bit. And then I want the smaller of the two. And this is width-wise, I've cut them. So I can go with that in there. So I'm working off that back rail. Going to pull the guide rail back over, tightening up that clamping underneath, that UJK clamp. Do the same this end. Check it's adding a little bit of tension. Visually, let's have a look. We want about a 2mm cut from the width of the blade. Doesn't look bad. Bigger problem I've got is my piece of wood's not straight, but such is life. Oh. Back in, sit it on. Just undoing that UJK clamp, just moving over just a little bit. Bit tight. So I reckon, and this is where we did different size spacer blocks. Do double check, make sure. Nah. So what varies on these is the width. This way, it's about a millimetre. So let's go with something just a little bit thicker. Bring it back into there. Thin one. Easier to start with the thin one and increase it. Just do that clamp back up. Once we have this right, then we'll be able to use it for each line down through. Take our blocks out again. We can undo that clamp, that's quite easy to get to. One in there, one there. Just bring that back over, and again we can do a visual sort of check now. That looks better width-wise. Not got to do really what we did before, but we can do this a bit more freehand on this. So having had a test cut, we've got that, we've got our scrap bit, that looks pretty good to what we want to fit in up against. So those two little blocks are good. We've got the bit down the middle, it's just coming down through. We've added a clamp down on here. Right, I think you can probably see that in the bottom of the picture there. Okay, that's just adding a bit of stability, getting a little bit of drop here, which is a bit annoying. So we can bring our guide rail back up and the saw back in. I just want to move this over a little bit. I can do that visually now. Anywhere between those two grooves I can cut and just bring it over a touch. Find my clamp is there. Check we're set on there, that's better this time, that's not going to drop this time. Back to the saw. So we take that guide rail off, we can see where we've just cut our bits. We can break these out, we can go down with a chisel in a second. Right, so the inner and outer cuts are quite important, working off that batten. We're going to move it over in a minute. And then we can clean these up. If I just reach for the chisel a little bit. And through here. Okay. So you can see how we can cut our groove out quite nicely. Then from there, guess what? Can repeat all the others. So exactly the same setup, go across the 4 lines. Once we've done that, I'll get you back in and show you what we're going to do. Hopefully that's all the cuts done. Let's just undo the clamp a bit. Got that one out. This one I've got to undo. This is pivoting on here. Let's get that out of the way a little bit. So I've got the cut stone down through. Just got to finish cleaning out these. So again, multiple little cuts. Make it easy to break these off. A little bit to get on that one, just at the bottom. That's right on a nail hole I can see. Again, chisel I can just use to break off the waste. Problem one there. We'll go back and get that with the saw. This one might have an issue as well. There, I can move that. That came off. Okay. Let's just clean out the worst of. So, kind of halfway through this, kind of thought it's going to be easier to go with a little router plane. Why? It's difficult for me to control the chisel working down here, especially on the centre. So, little router plane, just give me the scope that I can get into here, skid along. Next stage, I think we'll go down the far end. Got to look at these. So plan now, this hopefully should be the easiest one to get out. Nice and tight. That's good, that's good. That's good there, gently. Might work, let's have a look. I think my mallet might be a bit big, but we're safe. Let's turn them that way because I can use the force of it going that way. Instead of trying to bait it, can I lift it? Right, I know these fitted nice and tight and they vary a little bit. There you go. I'll pull that one up. See if I can come right on the outside edge. A bit tricky, we haven't got a lot of support in there. There you go. We want that out. So why do we want that out? We've now got to turn it round, bring it over and check in which direction that goes in. Now in a minute might need to undo some of those screws and underneath, but I'm hoping that'll fit together then. Right, so we're just putting some glue in these. We've got the first one in, so we know it's going to go. So hopefully, put that round a bit. Don't need too much. I'm going to put them out of the way. The last things to knock over. Turn this back round. Check I've got the right way. That's in there to there. Wiggle it a little bit. And gently. Tap them down now. Going in nicely there. This side, we're just going to use a clamp. That'll hold it and stop me having to beat this end so much. I can pull it down. So having glued all the others, just going back to that first one that we didn't put any glue in. So we've taken that apart. Just going to get this one now. We've got some glue in there. Got to be a little bit careful because I want to tap it down. I've got to keep an eye on this clamp because it's gradually going to get looser. I don't really want it falling off. That's good. That's in there. That one's a little bit tight. Let's go back to our batten, look. Get a tap down. This one, I can squeeze that one down. Got access with the clamp. Okay. Not too bad there. If that one's set up a little bit, tiny bit, but nothing drastic. Okay, so we're glued together. Get a frame done. Going to leave it to dry for 10-15 minutes just to tack up. Have a drink, cool off a bit. Last thing really got to do, we're going to trim the sides so they match the profile shape a little bit. They come from there, they can be a bit wider up here. We'll see. What I might start looking at is the width of what we've got at the bottom, bring it out a bit, but we'll see what we get a shape. And again, just guide rail thing, quite a quick and easy little bit to do next. So almost there, starting to look quite good. All right, at this stage we've got it all glued up. Last little bit of thing we've got to do, going to trim the outside edges. So we'd left them till now because in reality we don't know where they're going to be. Also by turning bits over, if we trim them earlier, they might misalign a little bit. So all I've done is mark a pencil line where I want it to be. So I think I'm 50mm here, 120mm at the top edge, so it fans out a little bit. We've got our guide rail clamp back on using those two UJK clamps. Fantastic to get in under here when I'm restricted on space. Something I'd never thought about using, so a holding lightning thing for me. So then from there, we can just trim these off. We've set the saw to a deeper depth. Glasses on. I'm going to step round this so I can get over the extractor. Going to have to work left-handed a little bit for this. Let's have some go-go juice on there and no power from that. So on. Little step on the guide rails, that's just come up over. So let's get that guide rail back in for the other side so we can position it. I've got my pencil line, one there, got to drag it out a lot at the top end. Got my clamp in under here so I can just get in there with my fingers. And like I say, I can't think of a better way of clamping this up. We need a couple of fixings, so just doing that one up. Checking for my pencil line, bottom face, going to run all the way up to the top. I have a little clamp. I'm going to slide in here, in from the end. I can get it down. I can pin it up underneath the rail that comes out. With them being nice and compact, it's amazing to get my hands in here. That's great, just to tighten that. So now we're ready to go. We can do the other one. I've got to bring the saw all the way down. So we trim both sides. Everything's glued up. Next thing I do, clear the bench off a little bit, undo the screws from underneath. Okay, so get those and then we're pretty much done with the making. So we've trimmed the sides, we've glued it up, we've moved the board about, I've taken the screws out from underneath, which is a crawl round section. Get all those screws out, so now we've got our frame totally together. I don't know if you see on the overhead, that looks quite decorative on there. There's quite a nice shape. Something a bit more robust than you probably go by. Someone's going to say finish. You can put whatever you like on it, okay? So you might have something that you traditionally use at home as a garden type finish. You want to put something on there. Obviously, that's got to be plant friendly. That's the best way I'm going to phrase that. You don't want anything too toxic on it. So we've got our framework. Hopefully, it's been a little bit enlightening. The dog system, the PARF system down the side. Something a bit different. Normally we try and say with the PARF system you move the work about. With this, not possible. So you move things about. Tricky little things we played with. That UJK clamp, fantastic to get on here. And like I say, it's something I'd not thought about. Hope you've enjoyed. Give us a thumbs up and do the subscribe thing, okay? We'll see you next time for more Woodworking Wisdom. We'll put this up, you can have a look in a sec.